Now, as you know, we covered No Man's Sky multiple times on the channel. In fact, it's seen so many updates on the Nintendo Switch. At first, I think it's fair to say that it was a bit of a mess. While it ran okay, it had several performance issues and drops. But then over the years, Sean Murray and his team at Hello Games continued to improve it to a point where it was almost, and I say almost, a little loosely, on par with the other platforms. They didn't give up on it, is the thing. And now it looks like they're already showing us they will absolutely not be giving up on the Switch when it comes to the Switch 2, with the release and all the details of the Switch 2 version of No Man's Sky. What's it all about? Well, I'm a little bit excited. Let's find out. The first thing you need to know about this Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade: if you own the base game, it's going to cost you an extremely high figure. Absolutely nothing. The upgrade to the Switch 2 edition is completely free because Sean Murray thinks that that's the way it should be. And yeah, you've got to salute him for that. What does the Nintendo Switch 2 upgrade version offer? Well, before I say that, I will say you can buy a standalone Switch 2 edition of No Man's Sky digitally, but the Switch 2 version brings it so much closer to the other versions available. So then the latest update for No Man's Sky is known as Beacon, and that is going to launch with the Switch 2 version. So all platforms will be unified, and it's update 5.7. Specifically, the No Man's Sky on Switch 2 features proper full multiplayer. You'll be able to join your friends on Nintendo Switch, but also it has cross-play, so you'll be able to play on the other platforms that feature multiplayer, or at least play with them. And if you're wondering what's going to happen to your original saves, or if you played on another platform and want to bring that across, there is now cross-save support for the Switch 2 version, so you can carry on with your existing journeys. It's really good to see, honestly. I was wondering how long it was going to take, and I was keen to see whether or not we would be a little bit behind in terms of the version, and if it was going to take Sean a while, or I say Sean, Hello Games a while to bring across multiplayer. But apparently they've been working quietly with a couple of dev kits for a number of months, and I think that says a lot as well about Nintendo and the direction they're going in, because they are notoriously, let's say, careful with who they provide dev kits to. We've interacted with a number of massive companies that haven't had that. So the fact that Hello Games have had it goes to show that Nintendo acknowledged the amount of work some of these indies have done to promote the Switch for what it was, and now for what it can be. Before we look at a couple of other changes as well, what does this update do? Well, it essentially enables you to oversee multiple settlements. You can become an overseer of up to 4 different settlements. You can manage the townships with a lot more detailed control over those. But here's the well, it's kind of ridiculous, isn't it, when you think of how far things have come. They'll have their own set of citizens, and those citizens will also have their own problems and issues. Now, I don't know whether that's going to come in the form of quest lines, but there is a specific emphasis by the team on how you'll have to manage your citizens by providing infrastructure for them to flourish. This will then enable them to produce resources for you. Of course, you can operate out of these and have them almost as your forward bases for exploration into the rest of the galaxy. And I think showing your friends around these environments in multiplayer, specifically for Switch players, is going to be a big change to what we're used to. In fact, that's one of the best aspects of No Man's Sky. Certainly for me on the PC, just being able to show my friends the things that I've created, those bases, there's something different about that. So those towns will be semi-autonomous, but something Sean said that kind of piqued my ears a little was that each inhabitant of each town has their own backstory. Now, that is a very Sean Murray thing to say. Previously, I would have taken that with a pinch of salt, but these days he is so careful because of the history of No Man's Sky. And if you want to know about that, I've actually got a whole dedicated video on the redemption arc that it's taken. So with those settlers then, basically by having conversations with them and meeting their needs, as we'll go into in a minute, you'll get an information page about each and every one. That gives you an insight into their personalities, the things that their strengths and weaknesses, and also a few little quirks in there, as well as skills such as being a baker or musicians. I think that's what he's talking about. But citizens can also have disputes. These have been reworked and expanded, and he says they've removed ambiguity from them, but that you're given a much larger pool of resolutions, aka they've added a moral element into it. So there's a grey area and you get to decide based on how you want to govern, how you want to resolve these quarrels and disputes. It sounds quality. It goes much further and deeper than this, down to things like defending your settlements with pilots and squadrons that you've recruited. You can change the exosuit AI to a more masculine voice, or you can have it silent. Of course, they've brought across other features so you'll be able to fish at your settlements. And the overseeing goes so deep, you'll even be able to name newborn citizens. I mean, they must really like you. So lots to look forward to. And you'll also be able to inspect different building details. So you can inspect the settlement structures. There's a specific terminal that links to this, with each building providing that ongoing contribution to the settlement's productivity as well as its overall happiness level. And some of them will also be able to provide unique special features for the player. As well as this, you'll be able to customize the exterior of buildings so you can make them look weathered or more rustic. You could have your settlement that had almost like a medieval tone to it, and they've added in the new salvaged components as well. If you're used to settlements, they've actually reworked those systems from the ground up. You'll find a greater choice. There's more depth in there, but I love that idea of your buildings and your choices affecting the town populace's happiness rating as well as their productivity. No Man's Sky is moving towards the sim life elements that we see in other titles, but as only one very small part of its package. Those buildings can also be fully upgraded, which adds another avenue. So then, in terms of performance, how are things improved? Well, the most obvious one I think is the frame rate. We're looking at closer to 60. Now, he has specifically not mentioned what the frame rate is, or at least as far as I can see, he just says massively increased frame rates. Just by eyeballing the footage they've released, it looks like 60 frames per second to me. Whether or not we're going to get some form of performance mode to go up to 120 in handheld, I don't know. That would be fantastic. But they will be making heavy use of FSR to ensure a very crisp image while rendering at a lower one. They've increased the draw distance. The level of detail draw distance has also clearly gone up from the footage, and this Switch 2 version has touch controls, so you can use that method of control for certain interface items, I believe. They've upped the UI resolution as well, so we now have a high-res UI. Sometimes developers would have like high-res UIs on Switch versions, but then low-res 3D visuals to kind of mask that. It looks like across the board now we're going to have proper looking high-res UI and graphics, as well as the touchscreen support. We have cue angelic music, gyro aiming. Now, yes, I know we kind of expected this, but I'm always happy to see it, especially now that we have the mouse mode functionality, because some developers seem to be pushing predominantly for mouse mode and then leaving out gyro. Yes, I am looking at you, Rune Factory, but it specifically states gyro here, which is great. Interestingly, it doesn't state mouse mode, so I'm going to assume there is mouse mode support, but that may not be the case. Now, as well as the improvements already mentioned, texture resolution has been increased significantly. The overall textures look much sharper than they did previously. Foliage density, in line with the overall level of detail increases, looks much better. But I think the takeaway here really is that they are launching this free of charge. It can't be understated the amount of work that must have gone into this behind the scenes. So the fact that their base Switch 2 version is expensive, if you're a new player, you know, and you want to buy it that way, a bit weird, isn't it? Because what's going to stop people buying the base Switch 1 version on sale and then just getting the free update? I'm not sure. You are benefiting from 9 years of free content updates that have been available, and it really isn't the same experience that it once was. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this update. I am really impressed with it, I've got to say. It's amazing. It's exactly what I thought and hoped quietly that they would do in terms of the free release. What I didn't expect, and maybe I should have done, was day one multiplayer support. That's outstanding. You couldn't ask for more than that as a Switch player. This is just a developer who wants more people to enjoy their game. You gotta love to see it. So there we go. If that hasn't got you hyped for this free update, which you'll be able to download day one on Nintendo Switch, aka tomorrow, I don't know what will. Thanks to our Patreons, our members, all of you that enjoy our content. Tickle some buttons, let me know down below, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!